أهلا فيكم مرة ثانية متابعينا، حلقة جديدة من برنامج شرايها عليا. اليوم عندي حوار جديد مرة ثانية عن السرطان مع طبيب السرطان يعالج بالطب البديل دكتور توماس لودي. بنتكلم اليوم باللغة الإنجليزية ولكن في ترجمة للحلقة لازم تروحون لها في الإعدادات في الحلقة فوق على اليمين في 3 نقط تضغطون عليها تحصلون الترجمة بالعربي إن شاء الله. Thank you very much Dr. Lodi, and thank you for coming again on the show. I really appreciate you being here with us. I want to, this topic today, I want to talk about in a nutshell the traits of a successful cancer healing story, like what it takes in terms of the character of the cancer patient and not only the character, what do they have working for them, your successful patients, what do they have working for them that people who don't heal don't necessarily have. So let's talk about first the support system, the family, the husband, the mother, society. Do you feel that there's a link between success rates and the support that that patient gets during their illness?
That's a very good question and a very good topic, very important topic. And in fact, if we don't have the support, then it's not going to work. I mean, that's how relevant, that's how significant it is. So what I'm doing now, what I look at is if, for example, the person wants to be here, but the spouse does not want them to be here, it won't work.
Even if the person is convinced themselves and in their heart of hearts they know that this is the direction they want to take and they've researched it, why would you think that is?
Well, because what I have found is that because there's a, regardless of how strained the relationship may be, there is a degree of intimacy and therefore there's a degree of influence on a very profound, deep level, not up here, but on a deep level. And so the person, the spouse who is disapproving, is injuring the person's faith, is injuring the person's, because it's one thing to know and it's one thing to have faith. Faith is a little bit more than just knowing. And I'll try to give that as a little better, clearer explanation. But let's real quickly look at the biology of stress. In the biology of stress, what happens is, if we looked at our system as having 2 basic switches on either in this direction or that direction, we can look at it real carefully if we look at the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is that part of the nervous system that is not under voluntary control. It deals with digestion, it deals with all the other things that we're not even aware of. Heart rate, etc., breathing rate, etc., all those things. Okay, so there are basic 2 fundamental aspects of the autonomic nervous system. One is called the sympathetic and one is called the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is where the muscles are, all the blood is opened up, basically all the blood vessels, all the little muscles that feed the muscle, all the little muscles in the arteries that feed the blood vessel, feed the muscles are opened up, and so the muscles get engorged with blood, they have lots of energy, etc. So do the bones, and the front part of the brain is shut off, and we get energy to the hind part of the brain, the reflexive brain, because this is the system that you've heard of for fight or flight. This is a person who's in great danger and they need to either protect themselves by running or fighting in some way or another. And when you're running from a lion or you're running from a guy with a gun and you get to a fork, you can't sit there and decide, should I go left or right? It has to be a reflex. Okay, so you shut off reasoning and you go into reflex. And so that's what happens. So we're reflexive, our muscles, our joints, our muscles, our bones, all that. So all the other stuff is shut down. And what is the other stuff? All the blood going to the pancreas, going to the liver, going to the digestive system, going to the colon, going to the immune system. Even the immune system is not necessary for right now. It's going to keep me healthy in the long run. But right now, if I'm not fighting off neutrophils, that's okay. I'm not fighting off the bacteria, that's okay. So everything that we think of for healing is shut off, and we're in a fight or flight mode. Now the other system, the parasympathetic, is the one that kicks in when you're sitting there and you've eaten your meal and you sit back and you kind of feel warm and happy and all that, and you've got friends around and all that. That's turning on all the blood flow to the organs of healing. So anyway, we have an interplay between two. Stress, in other words, stress is our body saying there's danger, 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 danger. So we shut off healing, we go into this protection. From healing to protection. So we're in a protection mode. So now, if I have a stressful life, right? I'm always late for an appointment. I got to do this, do that. I didn't do this. I'm running in that area. So I'm not all day long. I'm not healing. So that's why the stress is detracting from my ability to heal. Now, so anyway, what we usually find people have a sympathetic dominant. They're more dominant that way. So that's why we teach meditation. We teach those kinds of things. We want to turn on the other side to get the balance. It's almost like estrogen and progesterone in women. It's not that the estrogen's bad. It's just that they don't have enough balance with progesterone. So again, it's a matter of balance. So that's what happens during stress. So fear, anger, all of those things are stress. Basically, you turn off healing, turn off the immune system, and you turn on this other part of you, and that is antagonistic to healing. It prevents healing. And so we know, we can actually measure, there's one of the important cells in killing cancer are called natural killer cells. We can measure they've gone up not only in number, but in their function when somebody has a good laugh. I mean a real belly laugh, not a real laugh. Or, you just got reunited with your loved one. We can measure natural killer cells going up, and you can measure the opposite. Someone just found out their mother died. Or anything like that, or a woman who comes home and finds her husband cheating on her. Anything like that can just, it wipes it out, okay? So we have to understand that's the effect. And I want you to keep in mind, too, of how the mind is 95% subconscious, 5% conscious. So therefore, two young women, 30 years old, become roommates. Within 60 days, they're menstruating at the same time. It wasn't planned, it wasn't discussed. That's just how powerful it is. How about this? A couple is trying to get pregnant. They finally give up after years, and they adopt. A week later, she's pregnant. I mean, so when we have to understand the power, we have no clue how powerful this part of our system is. But, we separate it. We call it mind, body, spirit. We have to just separate it so we can talk about it. But in reality, where does one end and the other one begin? We don't really know. So basically, that's it. So if you don't have harmony in relationships, so in other words, if a spouse or your mother, if your mother's not important to you, it doesn't matter what she thinks. Just like it doesn't matter what this guy down the street thinks. He could think, I'm crazy, I don't care. It's not going to affect me on a deep level. But my brother or my mother, anyway, so that's what I'm saying. So all the benefits someone gets of being in the clinic all day long, and then they go home and they get, you turn off everything, and you kind of undo whatever benefit you had. So that's why
it's the value you attach to the relationship, you're saying, more than just the fact that person is related to you. It's how much you value that relationship, right, where their opinion becomes important to your healing.
Right. I mean, there's some people whose uncle is more important than their father. If their uncle's opinion, or my brother, I care what my brother thinks, I don't care what my brother thinks.
Yeah. So how does that work with the society then and communities? So because you hear a lot of stories of people who choose alternative medicine for healing cancer, and it's almost like they're swimming upstream. They're going against everybody else. They have to almost defend themselves and fight cancer at the same time. So they're not just going against the husband or the mother now. They're going against collective consciousness, which is very difficult to allow healing to happen. So how do these people do it?
Well, again, it depends on the nature of the person, because if you're really affected, if you're one of the people that is very much affected by what others think. You know, like, you know, the person that says, "Shh, what will the neighbors think?" And the other person says, "I don't care what the neighbors think. You know, I'm angry, blah, 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 blah." Shh. You know, so people that are really concerned about what others think, right, for them, it's going to really be difficult for them to benefit as much by it. But for those people who have already used to being swimming upstream and being outside of the box, and where it doesn't have that much effect on them. So it really depends. But there's another thing that's even more subtle. As I mentioned, 95% of our consciousness is subconscious, so we're not aware of it. So we're not even aware of our feelings. We might not even know it, but we did, all of us alive today, grew up in a system where we grew up thinking that we watched TV shows when we were young. Like I remember in my age group, we watched Marcus Welby, and here's the guy with the white coat, and everybody went to see him, and you had great respect for him. I grew up with that. So even though here I am, many, many years later, an alternative doctor, if I had cancer, I would not dare go to a regular doctor because I wouldn't want to hear it. I would be afraid to hear what they say because I know there's a level deep down inside of me that might be affected, even consciously. I mean, I know. I mean, if anybody knows, it's me. I wouldn't. So the best thing I could do is not even talk to them, not hear from them. I got to protect myself. Just as if I were an alcoholic, I would not meet my friends at the bar. You know, I wouldn't meet them at the bar. So we have to have a respect for that kind of thing. So the answer to your question is it's going to always be difficult, no matter who the person is, really. And that's why we have certain techniques that were very important. Techniques of stress reduction, which include meditation, yoga, exercise, getting enough sleep, etc., etc., etc. All these things help us feel comfortable in our own skin, you know.
And is there an element of how quickly the cancer patient is willing to let go of their own resistance as well? Because cancer is kind of a wake-up call, and you have to change everything that's happening in your life. And for a lot of people, they might agree to doing a few things. I might change the diet, I might take some vitamins, but to overhaul your whole system of thinking even might be difficult for people. So do you feel that the more successful cases, let's say, are those who were able to do this the soonest? Like to be able to let go and say, everything I'm doing is wrong, let me just start from scratch.
You know, you've hit the nail right on the head. Exactly, that's it. You've really identified the fundamental thing with healing in cancer. And that is, the word actually is called surrender. Yeah. And I want people to understand that surrender does not mean giving up. Surrender means you're in full acceptance and acknowledgement of the way things are. You know? Because anything else is a level of denial. Okay, the fact is that this is the way it is. And so what I love about working with people with cancer is that in the vast majority of them, it's the only condition in which people stop negotiating. And they say, okay, stand on my head for 3 hours in this spot, and then 8 hours that spot, okay. And it's that attitude that allows the healing, that allows the divinity to come through. And I'm serious, that sounds crazy or whatever, New Age, whatever it is, but it's that, because one of the things that happens with cancer, a profound thing, is that when people get cancer, they get a profound sense of that they have lost control of their life. And they will do anything to maintain that control. So you'll find people with cancer like arguing with this person over little things just because they're trying to, but the person is this, okay, what should I do? And they do it gladly, and I'm so glad I'm here. So it's that profound surrender. It's like, what is that one they call radical forgiveness as well? You know, radical forgiveness, radical surrender, just saying, okay. And then, you know, and think about it. That's what a water fast is, the ultimate surrender. You're surrendering to the laws of God. Yeah. You're saying, okay, I can't do it. Heal me, God.
And do you find that that's harder to do for people who are more left-brained, like the scientists or even the medics? Is there a category of people that you feel has an easier time doing that, doing the surrendering and flowing with the treatment?
Sure, the artist, the musician. They're because they're already with the flow. I think if a surfer got cancer, it wouldn't last very long because they're so used to surfing life. Yeah. If the wave goes this way, they turn. They're not going to tell that wave which way it should turn. They're going to, that's the surrender I'm talking about. The surfer didn't give up. In fact, he rides that wave all the way to shore, but he doesn't ride it on his terms. He rides it on the wave's terms, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm going to plug in.
I like that analogy. You mentioned artists and singers, and I would imagine that artists also have a nice way of self-expression as well, and some illness in general is sometimes just congested feelings and sentiments that were never expressed. So I imagine that the art would come into the self-expression Sure. as well, right?
No, absolutely. Whenever I think of the artist Sting.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton, when his son fell out and he died. And what came out of him was that beautiful song. It became one of the most well-known songs ever, that just showed me how he took his tragedy and made art out of it. He surrendered to it, right? And he embraced it, He embraced his death, rather than denial, I don't want to talk about it, how people might do with the death of a child. He embraced it, he took all the terrible feelings of it, and that's what we have to do. That's like with mourning. Unless you go through, there's only one way through mourning, and that's right through it. You don't go around it, you got to go right through it. And when you get through it, and by going through it, you get out the other side. There's no other way through it, and it's the same thing with this. But the successful people have always been the people that have said, this is fantastic. And they wind up telling me, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. It transformed. I went from being what I was to achieving my potential. Now I've got all these people asking me questions. I've changed their lives. I had a lady who was a professor at a university who resigned and went to naturopathic medical school and became a naturopathic physician after. She was so moved and changed. So these people, they become almost evangelical.
Yeah. And how would you say, would you say that most of your cases, if it's related to their emotions, the cancer, assuming creating cancer in the first place, are we talking about unresolved issues with a person dying, for example, or unresolved issues with marriage or divorces? What do people present? What emotional baggage do they come to you with once they've been diagnosed with cancer? What do you feel creates the biggest cancer baggage?
Well, I think all relationships really evolve out of the dynamics, the subtle dynamics that you'll never quite understand between a person and their parents, because that's our original relationship. And if you think about it, even our parents, who are, when you're a baby, when you don't have words yet, you're just, they're God to you, right? And what do the parents tell you? From the time before you can talk, they're telling you, no, stop, don't. No, stop, don't, right? In other words, they're not accepting you for who you are. So basically, your parents are telling you, before you have words, you're not good enough. We're going to fix you. If you're a lady, you can't sit this way. If you're a little boy, you can't cry, etc., etc., etc. So all the things that you are spontaneously, naturally doing with joy are being told, no, 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 no. So think about it. Our most fundamental, original relationship is based on rejection. We get rejected early on. And that forms the fun. That's why we have to have contracts. That's why when we get married, we turn it into a contract. Okay, you love me, but I have a sign here. Everything. Of course, any partnership, I'll do business with you. You're my best friend. But, so, this rides its way into all relationships. So I think that it goes back to really, mothers are really probably 60%, fathers 40. And then we of course, mothers become spouses or fathers. We project, into with our, But anyway, interesting. Women with left-sided breast cancer, we find, have issues with their mother. women with right-sided breast cancer have issues with either their husband or their occupation. Not all the time, but I had a woman who had issues with her, deep issues, with her mother-in-law who was right-sided, because that's her husband on that side. It was very.
But has that been researched? I mean, I'm curious to see.
I don't know. I found that in the U.S. I found it in Thailand. I find it everywhere. It's not 100%, and I always think when I can't quite figure it out in this situation, there's some. No, it's in fact I never even looked it up. I wonder if it's been researched.
Yeah.
But
and women who have both breasts, cancer in both breasts, one assumes that they have issues with everyone, or there's a much larger issue happening. Where did it start? Okay.
Because it usually starts in one or the other. But I mean, it's just an interesting thing. And then we also started to look at personality traits of people with different kinds of cancer. So pancreatic cancer, people must be in control. These are always very, very controlling. So it's very interesting. So basically, what I do with people is I remind them that look, you can't change the way you think. You can't decide not to think. You can't decide it won't happen that way. So all you can do with your mind is learn how to turn it off. And that's why we use meditation. And for people who are very strongly religious in one way or another, and they think that meditation is violating their religion, it's not. I mean, Jesus meditated, Muhammad, they all meditated. Meditation is a way. When I think of prayer as talking to God, I think of meditation as listening to the answer. And that's what meditation is. So if we just look at it that way, no matter what your religion is, what you're learning how to do is turn off the mind. Why do we want to turn off the mind? Because it gets in the way of us surrendering. It gets in the way of us listening. It gets in the way. So when we think of an animal, a dog and a cat or any animal, when it's not busy either eating or making babies, it's just bliss, because they have nothing in there that's blocking it. All animals are in bliss. We're not us. Look at us. When we have nothing to do, we're sitting there going.
Analyzing everything to death, yes.
Right. We're thinking about what was, could be, should be, might be, would be. I know, we're never here. So anyway, the beauty of meditation is it brings you to this, the only thing that's real, and that's right now. Tomorrow isn't, yesterday isn't, all that stuff isn't. What is right now, and who lives here now is God. That's where it is. So really, meditation is so important because it teaches you how to turn off your attachment to your illusion, whatever your illusion is, of how it should be, how it could be, how it could have been, how it should have been. This is the dramas. This is, if you need drama, you watch a soap opera at night, but take it out of your own life. So anyway, that's why we do meditation. It's so important. Because you can't decide not to love somebody, or you can't decide not to feel bad about someone. You can't say, okay, I'm not going to feel bad anymore. It won't work. But you can learn how to chill.
Yes, yes. One final piece of advice that you might have for somebody who wants to go alternative, but one of their relatives is not convinced. Would you suggest that they do it anyway? Would you suggest that they start showing this relative the research and maybe the whole argument? Or would you suggest that they meditate their way into just surrendering into that, and then maybe things will fall into place? Or maybe, do you have any other suggestion for them? Because there is a lot of resistance, and people who've looked are convinced, but you have this baggage of support system not catching up.
Well, one of the things that's really important for the person is to be authentic to themselves, right? So what everything you said they should do in varying degrees. So, for example, you got a brother who you really respect, and he says you should go this way. And then you say, look, I'm going to show you the research, and I'm going to show you all that sort of stuff. But what I ask you to do more than anything is to love me enough, and to respect me enough, to give me your blessing, to do what I need to do. To be authentic with them, to tell them that truth, instead of doing that kind of thing. And if you do that with them, it's really hard for them not to. And say, look, I need to go this way because it's how I would. If I'm wrong, I need to go this way. Because if I'm going to die, I have to die doing what I thought was the right way to do it. You know, and try to get them from that aspect of it to respect you. If you've got a bunch of family members, it's harder. But I've had people who do that, and actually I've had people who say, I don't care what you all say, I'm going to go this way. Now those people, and then they do. What I found is that there were certain parts of the family that will never forgive them or whatever it is. But most people come along and say, okay, we're here, we're with you. You know, the problem is that if the person doesn't survive, then they all get mad at me.
You're the only one left.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Dr. Lodi. That sheds a lot of light and hopefully encourages a few people. I just wanted to highlight the importance of the mindset and the support system in this journey, because it's a long-term journey. It's a marathon kind of, and you have to feel supported throughout. Yeah. Thank you very much. We'll take questions. Hopefully we'll see people's comments and questions for future episodes. شكرا لمتابعتكم، وحطوا لنا أسئلتكم عن هالموضوع أو موضوع ثاني يتعلق بموضوع السرطان في الأسئلة في التعليقات، وإن شاء الله نجاوب عليها في الحلقات القادمة. ولا تنسون تشتركون أيضا في القناة عشان توصلكم الحلقات أول بأول. شكرا لكم.